Welcome to my class on economics of public policy. Today we are beginning with our understanding of economics of public policy. Um, in my previous two lectures, I have discussed public policy, what is the definition and how it can be understood from various disciplines, including economics. And today onwards, we'll be talking about how economics as a discipline give us, comprehensive understanding on public policy. Uh, so to begin with, the question that I want to pose, like, why is economics as a discipline is important for public policy? And I also have stated that principles of economics and introduction to microeconomics and macroeconomics from selected chapters from few essential readings that I have listed are important to proceed further. So some of the points that we'll be discussing is it will be kind of review of all the concepts that we use in economics and how we use in public policy. That will be the main agenda of this particular course. So let's start with what is economics. As a student of economics, we have to understand what do we mean by economics. We basically study of how individuals, firms, government, and other organizations within our society, or you can call it economy, make choices, and how these choices determine society's use of its resources. So here, 2 points that we begin with. One is scarcity, and the second concept is the choices. So when we talk about scarcity, resources are scarce because we have unlimited wants, but then our resources are scarce. One can give an example of like one farmer has 5 acres of land, and choice is whether to grow rice or wheat or combination of rice and wheat, but then land size for that particular farmer is limited. So even that farmer wishes to produce rice and wheats together, but then if land size is not allowing, then farmer has to decide whether to choose whether to produce rice or wheat. Similarly, even for the choices, that becomes very difficult because you have to make very scientific choice to choose over one commodity to other, and therefore choices are called as science of choices, like very mechanically and methodically you have to decide what to choose and what not to choose to produce. So therefore, how do individuals, firms, and governments and other organizations within our society make choices? That becomes very important. And then second point in the definition that we discussed, like how do these choices determine society's use of its resources. Here a couple of examples for better understanding that one can take it. Like a student can choose between either to study or play a video game, or student can also choose whether to write more or less write and just to read or do less practice. So this is again choice between two activities. A company also can decide what to make. Like one company can decide like whether to make more televisions, or we can make the company can also choose to make say projector. So is again a choice between two. And for the government also can decide whether to spend more money on social infrastructure such as education or health, or build more roads or the other physical infrastructure. Again choice between these two. And then of course choosing between these two depends on what kind of resources that one person has. In case of farmer, how much labor, how much capital, and how many labors, and how much land that farmer has. These are the resources from where a farmer has to decide which one has to choose. For the students, that the decision has to be there whether to study more or going for a movie, for instance, or playing a video games. For government has to decide which one to choose, whether resources, how to resources to be allocated between social infrastructure or physical infrastructure. And here comes, like, once for any human being, for the resources are unlimited. Like, I would like to give an example. Like, I can my objective is to reach from place A to B. I can use my bicycle, or I can use my vehicle, two-wheelers or four-wheelers, or I can take public transportation available in my city, and then, or private vehicle like Ola or Uber, to reach from one point to another. So here it depends on what are the alternatives or the choices that I have in terms of city infrastructure. If city has very better infrastructure in terms of connections or public transportations, then I will rely on the public transportations. If not, then I'll of course choose which are the other modes of transportation that I want to use from point A to B. So here is my choice. And then I will also, while making the choice, I'll consider what are the repercussions, I mean, in terms of cost and the benefit. So now moving to next, as I discussed in my introductory class, that we will be using various economic tools and theory to discuss every problems or concept of the public policy. And here, to begin with, I have considered production possibility frontier. So when we are talking about scarcity and choices, we are actually talking about the trade-off. When in case of farmers trade-off between choosing to produce rice or wheat. In case of student, it is a trade-off between study or watching movie or playing video game. Or for transportation case, it is the choice between public transportation or private vehicles to reach from one point to another. So it is basically trade-off that we have to choose one over another. We can't do it two things together at the same time. So now coming to cost, so here the opportunity cost, and then we'll discuss in details, like what we choose at the cost of others. Like we have to calculate the foregone cost, and that is how we define in economics as opportunity cost. We'll discuss in details. And then optimization, when we say that resources are scarce and our desire or wants are unlimited, and their optimization comes, like at what combinations that my desire at the same time resources will be optimized at the same time. Now moving from cost to benefit, when consumption takes place over goods and services, we can consider as commodity. People satisfy their wants, and these commodities that are produced to meet my demand or society's demand, that yield economic benefits. So here cost and benefits are important, and particularly in case of public policy. So now moving to production possibility frontier, what do we mean that? So let us assume that there are two commodities are being produced. One is agricultural goods and the other one is industrial goods. And then choices that we make it, whether to produce more agricultural goods or whether we want to produce more industrial goods. So now this blue concave curve is the production possibility frontier, and there are a couple of points on which we should discuss. Look at point B, C, D, E. So there are various combinations where agricultural goods and industrial goods can be produced. So assume at point A we are focusing more on the agricultural goods. Take the example of say X1, like X amount of agricultural goods, and I at this combination at point A I'm having Y1 amount of industrial goods. So at point B it is clear that we are as a choice we are producing more amount of agricultural goods as compared to industrial goods. Now if I want to progress with the industrial goods, then I'm moving from B to C, where say X2 amount of agricultural goods is being produced, like X2 amount, and Y2 amount of industrial goods are produced at point C. Further, if I move to D, here more amount of industrial goods, say OY3, and less amount of X3 agricultural goods. So these all points B, C, D and E, in all the points here countries or producers are actually having best combinations, but then the trade-off between two commodities, like between agricultural goods and industrial goods. Now if a nation, or if I as a producer is at the point A where there is, it falls within the production possibility frontier, which means it is underutilization of the resources. In the given resources and its full capacity, country can actually, or producer can actually be on the production possibility frontier, which is labeled in this blue concave curve. But under this curve is basically underutilization. And then if I want to achieve at point F, then nation has to re-strategize because it falls above the production possibility frontier. So here of course A, B, C, D, E, all points are achievable, but then point F within the given resources is not achievable, and that is the point that I'd like to highlight here. So now if I of course want to move to A, then our capacity has to be increased with the resources, and that is actually land, labor, capital. And then say with the various policies that government has taken, like digital India, say like skill India, and also make in India, that has increased the efficiency. If we take it as a positive as a policy outcome, and then more goods and services can be produced with this skill enhancement, and then with the digital India at a fewer resources, and therefore production possibility frontier can shift from original point to say on the right hand side, where we can achieve at point F. Likewise, during COVID-19, efficiency and other resources were reduced, and therefore outcome has reduced, and therefore inward shift of the production possibility frontier. Now moving to the next, like how it shifts, like this is one case where say point A and point B. Point A, it is on the blue line of the production possibility frontier, and point B, it is on the red production possibility frontier, and we have chosen two goods, like one agricultural goods and the other one is industrial goods. So like say we don't have much resources to go beyond with the current production possibility frontier for the industrial goods, but then since India is labor abundant countries and we have the surplus labor, and therefore we can actually we have the enough capacity to produce more agricultural goods. And in this case, to have the same level of industrial resources there, and then it will shift, production possibility shift towards upward, towards more producing more agricultural commodities. Likewise, the other choice will be from A to B, where agriculture there is we have reached to the saturation level of the agricultural commodities, and therefore we can actually enhance our industrial resources, and therefore we can produce more and more industrial goods, having the keeping industrial agricultural goods less, and then we move from A to B. So this is how production possibility frontier can move from one point to another, or shift from one point to another across different time frame. So now in terms of opportunity cost, as I said that I'll explain, I spend more time on the opportunity cost. And here take the example of this graph where I have used agricultural goods and industrial goods, and here the units on the vertical axis, units of the agricultural goods are measured, and on the horizontal axis units of industrial goods are measured. So here the alternatives at every points, and the one case that we have taken, the movement from A to B, and then at point A, if you notice, like 70 units of agricultural goods can be produced, and 50 amounts or 50 units of industrial goods are produced. So now the decision, like whether I want to move from A to B. So if I move from A to B, then industrial goods units increase from 50 to 70, so increased by 20 units. But then at the cost of agricultural commodities, because unit for agricultural goods is decreased from 70 to 30, reduced by 30 units. So from this, here is a gain for the industrial units, like 20 units is a gain, but then agricultural units is like loss, like 30 units is a loss. So here, if I define what is opportunity cost in with this diagram, like 30 agricultural units for 20 industrial units. So a opportunity cost is 1.5, like just simple calculation of 30 by 20. So that is how we get it, like for unit of the agricultural goods, like 1.5 units of agricultural goods per unit of industrial goods. So that is how we calculate, like what is the foregone. It's like in order to produce 1 unit of additional industrial goods, we have to give up 1.5 units of agricultural goods. So generally in this point, like opportunity cost is very important point of the discussion to discuss about the trade-off, and therefore at the macro level, at the policy level, the opportunity cost of industrialization is the agriculture, And then the opportunity cost of agriculture is the industrial growth. So it is basically the choice for any government is like what needs to be focused more, whether agriculture or industry. And therefore trade-off can be explained with the help of opportunity cost, like why policymakers must carefully balance between food security, which actually say wheat and rice or bread or other agricultural commodities, and the industrializations, like what are the manufacturing goods that we are planning to produce at the cost of agriculture, and vice versa. So this is how production possibility frontier and opportunity cost are very important even in the public policy discourse. So now the point I think is very clear from the understanding of cost and benefit of economics is nothing free in economics. So let's again come back to a couple of examples. So these are the like our everyday uses that we do, like this social medias are very much part of the our everyday life, and as well as game for the for kids or for students. So now the best question, are they free? Of course, in terms of monetary, it is not free, because you have to spend, you have to buy smartphone to use them, or you have to buy the video game if you want to play, and these are not free, you have to buy. So that is a monetary cost that are involved. But then besides money, what is important is like you are using time. So even time also has to be taken into account. If we are a rational human being, it is not always cost is measured in terms of money, but also it also needs to be calculated implicit cost, and time is implicit cost here. Like we also have to take into account time. Why? Because you are giving up as a student. For instance, if you are using or spending too much time on social media, like in Facebook or Instagram, so you are giving up so many things to utilize that time, because here time is a resource and that cannot extend beyond 24 hours. So that's how time is resource and it is limited. Within that, say for good health, 8 hours of sleep, and rest of the 16 hours you have to spend, and you have to make a lot of choices between that, how much you can or one can actually spend. Here you are giving up, like you are giving up your study, you are giving up part-time job. Even some students, they want to besides study also needs to do job, because of earn, and with that earning can support their education, or say tuition here, or household work, like you're if you're at home, then besides study you're also supposed to take care of some of the household works. And here when you're giving up so much, so many things, so that you're utilizing your time efficiently in terms of study. So these are the basic principles of economics that I want to reiterate. So one is of course optimizations based on the available resources and the information. With the best information, we have to optimize our our wants and also the resources. And equilibrium, where we get it from the optimization, is a situation in which everyone is simultaneously optimizing in the general equilibrium model. So nobody would benefit personally by changing his or her own behavior. And here when we talk about optimizations and equilibrium, here Pareto optimality also comes, like and especially in case of public policy, everybody should be at the better of situations, not at the cost of others. So so that is the optimization that we are talking about, holistic way. And then empiricism is also one of the important points in economics as well as in public policy. Without empirical evidence, economic theory cannot be understood, or implications of the public policy also cannot be understood. So this is empirical data actually helps us to understand the real world much better way, and also help us to think theoretically how it should be understood. So I want to highlight 2 points. The point that I began, like all the resources, all the decision makers or the rational human beings are the economic agents, because all of us, like as an individuals, farms, government and other organizations, we have the agency to make our economic decisions, and which has the positive impact on the outcome. Therefore individuals, whether individual consumer, individual producer, or even a kid or thief or employer, all of them, or all of us, we are as individuals are economic agents, because we are making the decision. Like even one can think like how kids could be could be considered as rational human being, because when a baby is born, doctor prescribes various, say for instance, food, and then that actually creates a market. And then if some baby has a kind of choice over which one to choose, or which and when kid grows up, which kind of toys is more liked, and that's how the market for those particular choices or the commodities will be made, and that's how the market is formed. As a group also, as a family, as a farms and political parties, union and collectives, they also rationally produce or think, and that's how the commodities are produced or the policy is framed. That's how the example of electoral candidates, when he or she contest, has to give the manifesto, and which includes the policy frame or the particular policy or particular agenda. That is very important, because that is also has the impact on the voting behavior of the people. And also as a family, for instance, we also can decide like, okay, as a family we are deciding like we will choose organic food over others, then obviously demand for organic commodities or goods will be increased for that particular family. So it is not always in individual, but as a group also behave as economic agents, and that's how we understand what is economics. In this particular lecture, I have used ManQ, principles of economics, and couple of concepts that you will find, like especially in concept like scarcity, choices, and opportunity cost, that I have used from ManQ. This will be helpful for you, especially initial selected chapters are highly recommended for you to understand better. Thank you very much. I will see you in my next lecture.